Okay.
It's on time.
Exactly on time, but they don't have the link yet, so we need to wait till, yeah, that's fine. We need to wait till someone shows up or something.
Hmm?
We shouldn't talk. It's being recorded.
You are- I can get.
Great, he can hear us. Eric said he can hear us.
Mhm.
Oh, there's somebody there. That's Eric.
Can you?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to our Q&A. This is number 13 in the healing series on Patreon.
Mhm.
And we'll just jump right in. So, first question is from John. Did Dascalos ever mention anything about the initiation? Maybe about what incarnations he took different initiation. What level of initiation was in? I would guess he wouldn't talk about his own level, but I would assume he's a fifth initiate. Um, no, he's actually a sixth. And that sixth initiation happened when he was, I don't know, in 1930s or something, in mid 30s. What initiation level is now, I cannot say. The second question is, did Dascalos ever mention if it's possible for one's higher soul, inner more self, to take multiple simultaneous physical incarnations? Yes, but it's not exactly like you might think it would be. At the level of the soul, at the level of the spirit, at the level of God Himself, a characteristic of God and the eternal beings in God is not only self-sufficiency, but a thing called multiplicity. This doesn't mean the beings in the absolute beingness are multiplying or getting more. What it means is that they're in great numbers. Multiplicity means in great numbers. And one of the qualities about a spirit soul, especially a self-realized soul, we'll say it that way, is that they can make multiple copies of themselves and materialize them. You can't do it as a personality, but the soul can do it. This is its nature. It's something it can do. And so it does it. But it only does it for real important reasons. So it's not like we're going to make multiples of ourselves and one of us is going to be an architect, the other one's going to be an astronaut. It's nothing like that. It's just the possibility, the potentiality of manifesting yourself in multiple forms. Now, we've heard many stories in India in the old days of India, not so much now, where a master could make a copy of his body and lay it down in front of a village, for example, and protect that village. But in this case, in our teachings, the self-realized have the ability consciously to make multiple expressions. But again, it has to have a really good reason. And there are, you know, how many do you need, right? So Dascos was purportedly able to do 6 at once. Or no, he could do multiples at once, but he never had more of a need to do more than 4. He said, I've never had a need to do more than 4 at once. So again, this is not something that's done as a personality, but done as a soul, at the soul level. Okay.
Mhm. Yes. Uh, one of the main characteristic of life, God, is multiplicity. So, in the absolute infinite beingness, uh, within the multiplicity of it, uh, some spirit being pass through the human idea, archetypal idea of man, and some spirit being pass through the holy spiritual idea. and descend and manifest in the world of existence. So when we self-realize, when we reach soul self-realization, this characteristic, uh, manifest naturally. Then we can exist at the same time in many places. We can be whatever we wish, even we can be in the material matter, animal, whatever we wish. But as he says, as Daniel says, there should be reasonable reason why they need to be in that.
And that reasonable reason, once that purpose is accomplished, that form dissolves because it's only done for a high purpose. And once that purpose is achieved, it dissolves. Now, what would happen if you met one of them? You couldn't tell the difference. They're identicals. You can't tell the difference from the original. It knows everything the original knows. So that's a little bit about that. Our next question is from Gustavo in Brazil. And he says, mystics in Brazil and elsewhere say that garlic and onions suppress our super senses. Is there any truth to that in your experiences? I want to say I hope not, because I like garlic and onions. And Desclos did too. I mean, it's, he never said anything about that in our teaching. That's just not as important. And it's like Christ said, it's not what goes in man's body that defiles him, it's what comes out of the person's mouth. So what we eat is so small of an influence compared to what we feel, what we think, what we desire. Those are the power points. And I will also tell you that Desclos gave remedies for physical ailments that included garlic within them. So obviously, he's not going to suggest we do something that's going to hurt our super senses.
Some food, like hot food, like the peppers or garlic, onions, the food which has a strong vibration. When we meditate, we always relax completely, right? But relax completely means relax our material body and relax our emotional body and relax our thinking body, right? And then relax material body, which means we don't react for the kind of sensation or stimulation from the outer cause or from inside of our bodies. So when we eat a certain kind of a strong vibrating food, it gives us kind of sensation, influence, or vibrations. That's why to reach until we reach certain level, and those kind of sense is ordinary human five senses, right? So once the food stimulate ordinary five mundane senses, five senses, it might prevent to focus on the higher senses, real five senses, real senses. It might influence it, but once we train well and beyond that level, it doesn't matter at all.
This is from our dear sister Laura,
I don't know.
asking if we can explain a bit more about the experience of awakening with vibrating feelings in the night. Is this because in working with the sensate ether, we become more sensitive to the passing in and out of the etheric body as we awaken? Also, I'm really appreciating the exercise of focusing mainly on the ascetic ether. Are there other exercises for focusing on other aspects of ether that you will be taking us through? Yeah, Aki has some planned, I think, for that. And just be clear, all seven natures of ether is in all the ether. it's not like one ether is sensate, another one's imprinted. It's all these are in the same one. We only have conscious access to the first three, the sensate, the kinetic, and the imprinting at this stage. But later we will be getting the others, the creative ether and the others. So, but yeah, it is. Once you start to become more sensitive to this etheric vitality and the etheric double of the material body, which contains it, you'll start to notice that when you come in and go to sleep at night and go out of your body, you'll start to notice that sensate of leaving the body. You'll start to feel the movement. You'll feel the kinetic, you'll feel the sensate. And same thing with you coming back in. You'll come back in again through the etheric double, of course. So, and this is something I've noticed personally is that when you go to sleep at night, you've had the day's thoughts. You have all these elementals running around your conscious and subconscious mind about the day's activities. So very often you go to sleep and you'll dream those things or some relationship to those things. And similar too, in the morning when you come back in, you'll start to dream. You can start to have dreams that what you're doing is picking up elementals in the etheric double, and they start to dream them again. And this is why the negative elementals, those destructive ones, they torture you as you're going to sleep because that's when you're more vulnerable. And they'll be right there first thing when you wake up in the morning and start torturing because you're not quite awake yet, and they have a little advantage under that condition. So that is the passing in and out of the etheric double of the material body as we fall asleep and wake up. Aki, huh?
Okay, I'll take over. Yes, as he says, sensate ether, aesthetic ether, kinetic ether, and imprinting ether. When what we are doing in our exercise is training by creating a vision, by visualization. We, how can I explain? When we are sleeping and we have experience what we call dream, but most likely we don't remember. To remember the experience, we have to train our imprinting ether. So after leaving our material body, we have to have the bridge between our imprinting ether. We have to leave 50% imprinting ether in our material body and 50% in imprinting ether in our psychonoetical body. Then, once we establish the bridge, we can remember what we experience in the other dimension during the sleeping, what we call the sleeping in the dream. So the exercise, what we are doing is a visualization exercise, is a training for that. Create a vision experience using a kinetic, aesthetic, and imprinting ether, and bring back the memory. So these kind of exercise will help us to be conscious in other dimensions. This is one part. And yes, I will prepare, and I'm already prepared. I prepared a lot of exercises specifically focusing on one function of ether. But as Daniel says, all functions of ether is one, not separately. For example, when we use aesthetic ether, kinetic ether automatically comes with it. So, when we feel something, the we feel the movement. We feel through the movement, right? So we can't separate the individual ether functions of ether completely. So we can focus on one functions of ether mainly, but together with that, we are using other functions of ether too. In the future, we will have the exercise focusing on creative ether, but to practice on the creative ether, of course, we have to use all the other functions of ether.
And another thing I just want to say, Laura, that's really good that you're aware of this. You're becoming alert to this. Okay, oh wow, I'm feeling the sensate ether strong as I'm falling asleep or waking up in the middle of the night and vibrating, feeling it vibrate. Because the archangels kick us out of our bodies and they work on our material body through etheric double. So sometimes you can wake up and catch them, sort of, in a way. They're working on you. So sometimes you'll notice this, but that's really not the important point. The important point is to say, who am I noticing it? That's what we want. We want to come out of all this. Yeah, we see this, we should know it and everything, but who are we knowing it? Who are we using it? That's the number one question, and that's the number one goal in the research of truth, which is self-realization. So it's maybe you're using it as a personality of at a certain level of your consciousness. Maybe it's more of your inner self using it. You can become aware of that too. So try to find who it is that's aware. Next question is from Laura.
Yay.
She's asking about cleansing the stables and how we can engage deeper through the exercises of introspection and visualization to begin to remove the elements contaminating our efforts or waiting to be re-energized. Yeah. This is a reference to the Labors of Hercules, one of the first works once you pick up the symbol of life and start to engage with it. And the next live seminar we're going to really lead you through that. But let's say something here in general. When she's talking about the stables, the myth of the Hercules is it's not a child's bedtime story. It was something taught to the seekers of truth in the mystery schools of Greek. And Hercules was half man, half god, but he had all these labors to perform. The gods or the kings made him perform labors while on earth. And he represents us, our spirit self, our real self, and our personality, because he was half man, half God. So are we. We're caught in the half man part right now. We don't quite see that God nature of us yet. Maybe we're starting to wake up to that. But he had to do certain labors. And this labor is the fifth labor, where he's ordered to clean 12 different stables that have 12 white bulls of the sun god Apollo, I believe it is. And they've been in the sheds that whole time, all year long. And so obviously they have waste. And so the stables fill up with waste. And so it was a huge job. So Hercules is said, okay, you got told you have to clean that stable. Well, to do it, he takes two rivers and rechannels their course in a certain way so that it runs through all the stables and cleans out all the filth. And that's how he solves the labor. So this is symbolizing us. We have these different centers of energy and elementals collect in there, and it's sort of like the dung of an animal in there that we have to clean out. There's the waste. It's always like when you burn a fire, you have the waste of the ashes. There's always this waste when we do work or consume things. So anyway, in this case, what we're doing is getting out the negative vibrations in these centers by running two currents through it. Now, we don't use rivers, so that's a symbol. But we do use the two currents in India. They call them Ida and Pingala. And these are the two currents or snakes, as is depicted on the medical symbol, that wrap around the center column and come up to the top. Those are the two currents we use. And so we have very specific exercise, the archangelic form exercise I'm referring to. And there's many versions of that, where you use these currents and run them through these centers to purify them. So we'll get into that much, much more in our live seminar.
Yes. We will exercise a lot on this. But about the stable of Agios, these two rivers means, as he says, Ida and Pingala in Hindu, it means Kundalini sitting in the coccyx and at the bottom of our center. And In the exercise, we visualize the two big stables, which means that mainly it means our center of solar plexus and heart. We cleanse mainly those two big stables centers because in those centers we have a lot of elementals, good one and positive one and a negative ones. Usually these two currents, we have to create a conscious current. Otherwise, we have a currency in a normal way already, but we have to create a good currency to cleanse all positive and negative elementals in the solar plexus center and the heart center. That's why we purposely visualize, consciously visualize the scenery, and we work on it as a hero Hercules. And together with archangelic form, we have many exercises which practice on the etheric currency, visualizing red light and purple light. We have exercise to go around, go starting from the genital center, center number 10, passing through the liver, center number 8, and up here, and center number 7, and going back to the center number 10, making a circle, or we go up and meet and the bottom of the sternum and change the currency, then change the color. It's very, very complicated, and we have to move on systematically. But we have so many exercises to create a healthy and, how can I say, safest currency to bring the Kundalini, to work on the Kundalini.
Thank you. There are also, you'll notice these, you're talking about to remove contaminating elementals that contaminate these centers. There's another exercise which is given, which we do often. Of course, there's nothing more dangerous than messing with these centers of energy and trying to control them in a coercive way, in a controlling way. We can engage in with them gently as the meditations direct us to. And one of them is to move a circle of light, a point of light around the circle around the solar plexus or the heart center, for example. And in doing that, this movement attracts the negative elementals like pins to a magnet. And while you're doing it, you want to tell your subconsciousness, I want all harmful elementals to be dissolved. So you're programming your subconsciousness to do the work, to dissolve them. But this movement of the current in a circle, and you do it according to the breathing. This etheric light, you can call it, you see there's a white light circling around the center of your solar plexus, but in a big way. It's not just right on your navel, it's the whole solar plexus area, the whole belly. And that pulls them up, and then you've ordered your subconsciousness to disenergize them. Have faith in that. Just trust in that one and do it.
The focus to work on the center, making a currency, is just for purifying, cleansing, not on developing ability or magic or those kind of things. Our main focus is cleansing. Then naturally the ability appears. So please focus on cleansing.
Eric is asking, well, he's saying, we mentioned before that there are always 7 from the brotherhoods, these 7 masters he's talking about, that are incarnated on earth. If Dasclos is no longer incarnated in the flesh, then do you know the currently 7th one? Are any of them actively teaching or engaging with the public? Yeah, that's right. There's always 7 of them, but they don't all come out. Some of them stay back hidden and you'll never know their names. You'll never hear their names. But the others are working anonymously, pretty much like Dascalos did. He didn't get anybody really noticing much till the end. So they're working anonymous. Some of them are working totally anonymously, never come out to the public. Some are working with the public, but they don't like to make a big show of who they are. In fact, they don't like to tell you who they are. But Dascalos gave us a clue. In 1991, in one of the Stoa lessons, he was sitting there talking to us, and he told us about how this works. But then he said, there's a new one that's come, and he's in America. This is 91. He said he was a small boy, a Native American, but the elders of the tribe were protecting him, and it wasn't time for him to come out. That's all we know. Now, we haven't found him. I know there's a lot of Native American, great Native American teachers and teachings, but we have not found or identified who that's one that Dascalos was talking to. But nevertheless, they're always there. They come and they go. I'm sure Master Hilarian's passed now too. So they come and they go. And when you're ready, you'll find them. If you're not ready, you'll never find them. You never even hear about them. So we at least know they're there. And really, what's the point of talking to all of them? I mean, we've got one that has, out of his great, great love and service, has come to us and devoted his whole life. From 7 to 85, or was it 1995? Yeah, to 83 years old, he constantly taught and healed. So for me, I don't feel the need to find another one. I feel like we've come as close to one of them as we probably ever will. And I don't think you're going to find, if you do find another one, I don't think you're going to find the prolific amount of teachings and works that Dascalos has left behind for us. So he's given us the seeds. He's given us the direction and teaching of how to plant those seeds and how to cultivate those seeds. And that's what I feel we should be concentrating on. If a new one shows up and starts carrying on, we'll find him if it's necessary for us.
Yes.
We're exactly in the perfect place we need to get the next thing we need to grow spiritually. So just trust where you are. Even if you don't like so much where you are, you're going to go someplace better if you follow these instructions, follow Dascalos' teaching. Okay, Aki. You have any?
Done?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. As the planet Earth has 7 center chakras and 8 locations. Just like that, they are the pillar of the light to create the energy, the ascend energy of this planet, the 7 masters. But they really don't need to be known physically. They don't need to be famous because, when we self-realized and reincarnate on this planet, we help people as invisible helpers. Invisible. They don't need to be known. They don't need to be famous again. So, in this sense, we really don't need to know physically and they need to meet that person. They might come and get contact with you from inside of you. So, the second coming Christ is from within us, as teaching says. So let's focus on go deeper, the deeper inside of us. Then we will know all information which we would like to know from within.
Anthony is asking to explain the term logos or logoic. Is it a concept of God? And when it travels down to lower vibration, turns into a monad and eventually a human being? It's not a concept of God, it's a manifestation of God. Now, Christianity has mentioned the word logos because that's part of the Bible was written in Greek, and so they use the Greek word logos. And they use it for Christ's logos. What's that? it's a certain manifestation of God. If you look at the symbol behind us, on your left side, the top of the golden triangle, but on your left side as you're looking at it, I believe, on the red side, we'll just say it that way, is the logoic center of absolute being. So all the infinite beingness are in there. You don't have to get it.
It's okay. You can here. You can see here.
So you'll see a bunch of red dots in a big circle, and there's a black point in the center of those. And this is the holy monads, and there's lots and lots of monads in each dot, or lots and lots of spirit beings in each monad, which is represented by the dot. And there's a countless of monads. So the logos is, Christianity has said it means the word. So when they talk about Christ, they say Christ is the word because they call him the logos, right? So they have commonly translated and presented the word logos as the word. But there's another meaning for the word logos in the Greek language at that time, and this is what they were saying. It means manifestation, expression, maybe you could even say. And similarly, a word is an expression of a human being. Well, this logos, Christ logos, is the expression of God, the manifestation of God as what? The total love. Holy Spirit is the manifestation of God as the total power, the almightiness. And God the Father is the manifestation of God as the total wisdom. And you'll see this one triangle. So we don't really want to think of these as three different gods or one God and two demigods. It's all one thing. It's just that each of these three expresses a certain thing more predominantly than the others. The Holy Spirit's in the Christ Logos, and the Christ Logos is in the Holy Spirit. So, but the Holy Spirit is expressing itself, expressing God in the dynamic way, the dynamical expression of God. So that's what we mean. But you don't want to think about it as, oh, okay, at the top of the triangle, oh, the vibration is higher, and down here lower, it's got lower to Christ Logos. No, it's all one thing. It's all one thing. And it's, when you say vibration lower, what is said about this triangle altogether is that it's motion with nothing moving. It's vibration with nothing vibrating. So it's in a state of eternal now. So there can be no higher, lower, past, present kind of thing. It's just is. Yeah.
About the definition of logos and the logoic, he already explained most of it. But maybe simply, the logoic, when we hear the word logoic or logos, it's one of the expression of God at the center, number 2. And it's the pillar. It creates the pillar of self-awareness. Self-awareness means I am the awareness of I am. Okay. We have the sense of I am, right? This is a logoic expression. But we also have to know something, focusing on something, put attention on something, to know and receive, what it's going on. And this is called the consciousness, the Holy Spiritual, the pillar. It's a consciousness, the Holy Spirit. But the logoic expression and the Holy Spiritual expression in one, in God, absolute beingness. So simply, when we hear the word logoic, please think of the self-awareness, what we are.
This question says, I'm currently fighting a COVID infection, and I want to say a huge thank you to Aki for your immune boosting meditation, which is helping me so much. This has all got me thinking about karma. I sometimes wonder, what's the point of having faith we will heal or even heal someone else if we are beholden to karma, even from another life that we don't even know about? How can we fix that even if we don't know about it? Is there a chance for redemption always? Um, I'm reminded of the story. I went to India long before I met Dasclos, and I was hung out with this guy who could materialize all kinds of valuable big things, small things. He could materialize a lot of things, and there were so many people, hundreds of thousands of people hanging around this guy when I was there, and I noticed something. He'd come around and he would make stuff for the people sitting in the front, but on the side they had the sick people in the wheelchairs, the crippled, the lame, the very ill people. And he spent a lot of time in front of the normal people, and he'd go by and he'd kind of bless them, but he wouldn't really do much for them. And I thought, why isn't he not helping them? Why is he just materializing these gifts and helping these people that aren't suffering? And later, when I went to Dasclos, he knew about this guy, of course, and he said, the thing that I notice is they don't want to interfere in karma. And that's the big difference between the Hindu system and our system. We definitely want to interfere with karma. We want to offset karma to the degree it's possible for us to do. And it is possible. So you can change karma. Absolutely, you can change your karma. Even if you don't know where it came from, because whatever happened in that lifetime has been recorded in the permanent part of you. Let's just call it the permanent atom of you. And when you have a new incarnation, that gets transferred through. So it's like this permanent atom has its permanent subconsciousness that picks up all the experience from all the different lifetimes, and it transfers it into the new incarnation as either lessons learned, which means talents, you'll get a talent or these abilities, or lessons unlearned, which means you're going to be faced with some challenges. So if it wasn't possible to change it, we would just be like puppets, just going through the thing. But since the fact that it comes into this lifetime, you don't have to look in the back. He never wanted us to look in back life. He says, look here now, introspect on yourself today, because hidden in what's happening with you today are those lessons that you're trying to learn. You're trying to teach yourself these lessons. So no need to worry about the past. Not necessary. And even if you did, you couldn't change it. If you could go there and watch that scene that caused your karma, you couldn't do anything to it. The only thing we can do, the only effect we can have on this is now. It's in the now. And yes, there's always a chance for redemption. And this is the beautiful part about, I feel, about this teaching, this system. Of course, it's based on Christ's teaching. It is Christ's teaching. Is there's always a chance for redemption. Even St. Paul wrote about the restoration of everything. So there are demons, horrible elementals cast by the fallen ones that are torturing and urging people to kill each other and torture each other and do the worst things you can imagine. Even the worst of the demons, with 7 veils, have different, they call them shadows over them. The worst ones has 7. Even that one will eventually stop and start to return. And an archangel will help redeem him until he's a purified angel. I think I can say it that way. But there's a process. So everything's going to be redeemed. All human beings, even the worst human beings that were doing the worst things on earth, that we, the Hitlers and the people doing genocide, those people too will eventually be redeemed. How long? How much suffering? Oh my God, you couldn't imagine. But there is a redemption of all things. So even back to your question of our karma, definitely you can change it. Maybe what would be a good example? I don't know. Maybe I don't know, maybe you did something some lifetime and the public dragged you out and hung you or something. I don't know. And so now you're afraid of crowds. And so, I mean, it could be this little funny example, but you manifest back, you come back in this lifetime, and now you're afraid of being around a large number of people, but you don't know why. You don't know why. You don't remember being hung in the court square, the town square, but you have this sense of being afraid of something or naturally disposed to something. You have to study it yourself. It's an individualized case. But so now you say, oh gosh, I'm afraid of people. You don't know what happened. It doesn't matter. They are you. So if you can develop this attitude of not them and us kind of thing, and you start to see it, you'll lose this and you'll burn off the karma of the last lifetime. But you have to make an effort yourself. If you don't make an effort yourself, then we're just left to the long trial and error incarnation process. It takes many, many, many incarnations to do that. But if you start to wake up and say, wow, I have an inordinate fear or inordinate desire or something about these things, study that right here and now, because that's where the key is to set you free. Okay?
Done?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Yes, please continue the exercise together with physical remedy, whatever you feel good. Along with physical remedies, try exercises using the, the light. You know, healing using the light in the future soon, will be already now. It will be proven as the remedy to heal our bodies physically even. It's proven, it's getting more and more revealed. Our physical body is healed being using the light. No? So please have confidence and faith to work on your bodies using the light. And together with this immune boost up the immune system exercise, I really suggest all of you to try the etheric breathing. As long as our bodies are filled with etheric vitality, unless the karma, law and cause the illness, our body is healthy. As long as we are filled with etheric vitality, then we don't have an illness unless law and cause and effect works. Okay, so please try the etheric breathing. It's simple and easy. We need only 10 minutes to charge our bodies with etheric vitality. This is one part. And the second part about the karma. Yes, because of karma, some disease appears. But we don't need to find what caused this kind of symptom or phenomena, as Daniel already explained, so I won't explain it. But just imagine and visualize the image of the lamp. Lamp has lampshade, right? But we are not the lampshade. Lampshade is the assortment of our emotion and thoughts through all our incarnations. And the karmic thing, the result of our karma happened according to the law of cause and effect. But once we focus on why it was that, and what, it's okay. It's your free choice or freedom to seek and dig out what was the cause of it. But it might create further complicated condition to work on finding the reason of things. Rather than that, just be aware. We are not the lampshade. We are the lamp itself. And this lamp is the God. And as long as we express the nature of God, nature of life, which is unconditional love and goodness and peacefulness. Peace. Peace means power and wisdom. When we start to think about something, when we start to create unnecessary thought and emotion things, then they just focus on the teaching or whatever which lift up you, and practice this teaching in your daily life and express those three natures of God, which means light from the lamp. Then your vibration immediately changes, and this light cleanse all karmic things or whatever we have now as the lampshade. So please focus on to emit the light of nature of God in you. Then your future will be changed. The future program of karma will be changed. This is how teaching says.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, if we want to send somebody balls of light, white light, for example, do we have to do a full 3 suns session to cleanse ourselves each time? Or can we build the ball also spontaneously with pure intention and love? Sometimes, if we suddenly feel someone needs it, it's always good in doing a meditation or a healing practice to do some cleansing first. It can be as simply as flooding yourself with pure white light. See yourself in pure white light. You can do the 3 suns meditation, or you can do the first part of the Lord's Prayer. That too cleanses it. But even if you do or don't do, you should always, at the end of sending that ball, say, "Thy will be done," because it's not our will that we see we want to help somebody, but we don't really understand the dynamics totally. We just love them and want to care for them. So we want to try to help them. And that does help them, no matter what their issue is. But I find sometimes the spontaneous ones are the best because they're so full of life and love in the moment. There's a connection going on. So if you feel that, do that. And then say, "Thy will be done."
Yes. Basically, before we work on the healing, we cleanse our bodies through by the 3 suns exercises. But in our daily life, it happens. Sometimes we need to work on it immediately. So it's no problem. And please send white light. White light is almighty color. So please send white light when you feel you need to. But just as you already know and says, with a clean and loving heart, no problem. Not only white light, it's okay to send a normal sky blue light on the whitish pink light and whitish golden light whenever you feel you need to send. It's kind of normal, common. It's not specific healing light, so you can send it when you feel like to sending it.
The last question is on reincarnation. When we pass over, as in die, and return in another incarnation, has the Earth continued in the same time trajectory while we were away? For example, if we died in the year 1800 and we were gone for 100 years, say, when we return, presumably as a newborn, will it be the year 1900? Or are there so many parallel uses, she's referring to the string theory, that you could find yourself in any time space in a new incarnation, say the age of Star Trek next time around? I hope this makes sense. An example is when Daslow spoke of the man who was in the Nazi SS before, who he was helping to heal. Was that just an exception where someone came back quite so soon? Well, there's no hard fixed rule. It all works under the law of cause and effect. Now, I used to think Daskalos was the only one I'd ever heard of who came back quickly, but I hadn't researched it deep enough. Daskalos, basically, in his incarnation, he was able to do it within 2 years. And this incarnation, he came as Daskalos, he had died 2 years and 1 month before in a previous lifetime. So that's pretty fast. But I just discovered recently that the Dalai Lama, now the Dalai Lama has had, this is his 14th incarnation as the Dalai Lama. Same spirit soul, 14th incarnation in this role of leading Tibet spiritually. He comes back, I mean, every one of them. It's like a year and a half, 2 years at the most between incarnations. So if you follow the Buddhism line, that's like the quickest one I've heard. But I've heard of a couple, known of a couple, that took over 3,000 years. And one of them, Daskalos confirmed, was 3,300 years since his last incarnation. So there is no hard fixed rule. Steiner says, oh, it's maybe about half the lifetime that you live. So if you lived 80, it could be 40 years on the psychical plane and then more on the other plane. But there's no fixed rule. It just depends on how quick you assimilate the lessons you need to learn and have the experiences you need to have. But yeah, the Earth, of course, would have gone on 100 years between 1800 and 1900. So you would see the world going along the continued lines that it had started in 1900. Of course, there's free will involved in this. There could be wars, there could be stuff happen, but it definitely is going to progress as fast as humans can progress on Earth in those 100 years. But it's even a little bit misleading to even say what I just said, because when you're in the psychical plane, time changes. It's not that there's no time. I mean, there's still passing events, but it's not like on Earth. And Daskalos, more than once, he talked about how you give a 2-hour lecture in the psychical worlds. And he appeared to be asleep for 5 minutes sitting on the couch on the material world, but he gave a 2-hour lesson over there. So the time is different. He's visited people on the psychical plane who've been there for 50 years trapped in a hell, and they think they've only been there a day or so. So it's all relative. Now, Einstein was approaching this stuff when he started talking about relativity, and he even gave the example, time is relative. It is relative, even on Earth. He said, talking to a pretty girl, a minute seems very fast, but if your hand's on a hot burner, a minute seems very slow. So it's all relative. It's back to that poem, time is too long for those who wait. Time is too swift for those who fear. Time is too long for those who grieve. Time is too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, those who really, really love, time is not. And you probably had that experience where you're thinking, the next thing you know, all this time's gone by. So time is a relative thing, but definitely the Earth is going to progress according to the direction it was going when you passed. Aki?
Done? Okay. I think Daskalos and the Dalai Lama, self-realized beings, are a little bit exceptional. When they have mission, they incarnate. But normally, like us, the beings on the process of developing, to complete our program as human beings, according to the circle of possibilities. We are just moving on and developing on the ladder of the self-consciousness to reach the self-realization. And we are processing all the programs. So the ending of the last incarnation, and also it's a very deep factor, so I need a lot of time to explain fully, but to make a whole explanation very short, we are existing here, which means we are influenced by all the energy of the outer universes. And also we are moving on and living according to the inner mm, energy which is coming from inside of us. So this kind of balance of the outer energy from outer world and the inner world, according to this balance, we have been existing in the world of existence. Okay, then when we end the last incarnation, we have a certain pattern of the energy pattern of which we finish that incarnation. Then until that energy and the universe is moving, everything is moving, we are on the development, right? Then when we meet with the same pattern of the energy, then incarnation start, next incarnation start. So it never happens at randomly or spontaneous. It's all according to the law of cause and effect and the law of divine law of universes. So until the energy meets that same pattern, will never incarnate. That's why some people incarnate very short in a short term, and some people takes 1,000 or a long time. It all depends on the energy, but it is working perfectly. Let's go next. It's
Danielle?
not yeah.
What is the significance of the relationship we have with the sun for our spiritual development and experience? God and experience of God, I guess. What's the difference between the sun logos and the sun God? I think we can pretty much say they're the same. What's the difference between the sun? They are the same. The sun and the logos. Yeah, they're the same. I have developed the habit to look at the sun for 15 to 10 seconds at noon. And if I have a question, when I close my eyes, I get the answer in light, animated pictures. Looking at the sun, I instantly feel bliss, and sometimes something beyond says, I love you, I love you, I love you. What's this all about? I will keep doing it even without knowing more. It's so fulfilling. Thank you, love. Nice, Daniela, nice. Of course, it's called the solar logos because it's a logoic being. Just like Mother Earth, the Indians called it. Gaia, the Greeks called it. It's a living being. It's the planetary logos. And there's the solar logos. And there's the galactic logos too. So these are just, all three of those are stations along the path of a third cycle of incarnations. We won't talk about that now, but there are many cycles of incarnations. It's not just this one. There's more. But in this case, you are experiencing the sun. You are experiencing the logoic, the love of the logos of the sun. It's a being. You're feeling something real, and you're getting benefited by it. But I want to tell you something. It's known that the truly self-realized can stare at the sun without hurting their eyes. Don't try that. There's this master called Hazrat Khan, a Sufi master from early 1900s. And I don't know that he ever talked about doing this, but his son heard about it. And he got the idea that you could look at the sun for spiritual help. And so he did. Now he's blind. And when he looks at you, he has to look at you out the side of his eyes because he can't see straight on because he's burnt the retina. So don't get this kind of information and just be very careful. Just be very careful. Don't think you can go looking at the sun. It's not a good idea. Although Aki has a nice meditation coming up here that addresses that and speaks about what's safe and everything. So just try to not look at it directly. Try to just feel that it's feeling. It's not about seeing the material sun that makes this happen. It's your psychonoetical connection to the material sun or to the psychonoetical sun that makes this feeling come about, that has this benefit.
Yes. When I look at this question, I smiled. Since in a couple of days, the new meditation will be uploaded, we will work on this. We will work on the meditation and the Christ consciousness. So please practice this exercise coming up. And yes, before we really had this system or group to work on, meditate on the sun. But to look at the sun physically with using the material eyes, most of people get damaged. We have to have a special training or self-realized. But there's no wonder to love and hear the message from the sun, because it's being, as Daniel says. No, please see the sun in your mind. I explained many informations in the next meditation, so please check it out. And yes, did you explain about the logoic sun and the son of God, son of Logos?
The Son of God is SON, is Christ Logos, planetary logos, solar logos, galactic logos. All those are stations approaching the logos. So at the end of the deal, they become one with the logos.
Yes, and please focus on the core, the central point of it. Everything has a central point, right? And those logos is we have logos in our heart center. Here we have sun in our heart center, right? Then all logos is connected in one. We are the part of it.
Okay. Good.
You
All
want
right.
to go next?
Well, we still have a lot, so let's try to move through them. Hugo's asking about Gabriel's meditation, which is creating the blue 5-pointed star around you for protection. He says, I know the 5-pointed white star should cover everything. Yeah, but sometimes we want different effects, so we use different colors. For example, sometimes people stimulate the thing they're trying to stop by using the wrong color, by putting energy into something. So the blue is very nice because it calms you down. It's tranquilizing. If you're upset, that's a good one to do, to bring you back into calmness. Don't do a red one. That'll activate and energize the thing you're trying not to have happen. Sometimes we use red light, not the red star so much, the red light.
But sometimes we create the red.
Absolutely. We use the red. A lot of times, Daslos was always saying the red color is used for people that have anemic blood. Their weakness. There's a weakness, so we're trying to strengthen that weakness. Okay, not make the weakness stronger, but overcome the weakness. Okay. Do you want to say something?
Of course.
Okay, go for it. He's got another question.
Are you done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, please remember, keep this in your mind. What color? White. We create a white 5-pointed star. White color is almighty color, so we can use for any occasions. But specific color like sky blue, red, by red. For the sky blue color, when we need to be protected with peace and calmness, steady strength, in that case, it's very effective to create a sky blue 5-pointed star. So for the specific purpose, use the colored light, and almighty purpose, use white color.
Cortez is also asking, is there a way to guide comment this answer? I doubt it. Um, Basically saying he started to discover, call them impressions, pouring over the edge of his subconsciousness back into his consciousness from childhood memories as a result of normal development that did not happen. It feels like a huge knot in my inner being. I was wondering if I should try to untie the knot, to heal what's not right. Just thought maybe I can just pray to for help. Now that I know that, what? Well, it's like we said before about the past life. Doesn't matter if it's past life or from your past childhood. It's a memory. It's you can't change that experience. Yeah, our experiences sometimes create knots. What the poet Rumi said, though there are 1,000 knots in the rope is still one thing. So you are one thing, but we do get these knots, these places where the energy doesn't flow and we get blocked. I call them blocks. When you do this work, you don't have to worry too much about that, really. You can say a prayer, but just the work you're doing of purifying your emotions, cleaning up your thoughts, raising your consciousness, and uplifting your self awareness, that automatically unties the old knots. So in this case, if you want to do anything for the old knot, as you call it, sure, pray. But also, the real way to untie that knot is through forgiveness. You say you didn't have normal behavior, normal development. Okay, I don't know who, what, when, where, why that happened, but you can forgive it because it couldn't have come to you unless it was part of the law of cause and effect. So God, the universe, allowed you to have this experience for your benefit, but you have to find out what is that benefit. Maybe the benefit is to learning how to forgive wounds, really bad wounds or troubling things that happen to you. Maybe that's a tremendous value just to learn to forget harms that other people have done to us. Whether it's just we're perceiving the harm or they did an actual harm, it's not always both the same. It doesn't matter. If you feel something about someone or some experience, you have to untie the knot. You have to learn to forgive. And of course, that's the first step. The second step is tolerance. You can't forgive people if you're not tolerant of other people's weaknesses. Aki-san?
We don't need to focus on our past lives because the essence is appearing just now in front. When we look around our problem and when we look around in our daily life, then we can find our issues and our homeworks which is relating to the past things. We are always given these homeworks. This homework and the issue is some total of all karmas, in a sense. So to work on what we are facing to right now is the best, shortest healing for all the karma. But if you really want to seek, or what was really the cause of the problem or the cause of the trauma, whatever, then I have an advice. You can do that by your free choice, but please don't lose what you are. Who are investigating that this position? Always realize and aware. I am investigating. Most likely, when we search and go deeper into the trauma or past things, we got entangled by these kind of things, and we can't get out of it. We get worse. We get worse in that condition because all the thought and the past trauma things influences. But never be influenced that. Just like introspection, look at and investigate and check what was the problem. So holding this position tightly, then please investigate. Then it will work. But it's not necessary. Just work on present moment as best way.
Andrea has a question about dreams. Well, I'm going to stop right there and just tell you what Daskalo says. There are no such things as dreams. These are real experiences we live in the psychonoetical worlds when our body is living asleep on the bed. In that psychonoetical world, we live in our own shell, composed of our own elementals. So what happens in a dream is those elementals materialize as people, places, and things, and we interact with them. And we think we're living in this world sometimes. It's very good, though, that you've noticed, wow, I'm having a bad dream. I want to wake up. That's you waking up in the psychonoetical world. This is very good. How to stop having bad dreams? Well, the bad dreams are just negative elementals from our own subconsciousness that are manifesting in the psychonoetical worlds while we're asleep and even after we pass over. So the question is how to get rid of negativity in your subconsciousness right now? Well, this is the job of introspection, isn't it? It's the cleaning our subconsciousness by examining our thoughts, feelings, our motives, our intentions. Do you have complaints? Are you having a problem with somebody? Is there something you're fighting, struggling against psychologically in your life today? Those create negative elementals, get stored in your subconsciousness, and can manifest as dreams. Um, it's just good that you're starting to become aware and wake up in the dream. This is a good sign that the teachings and practices you're doing are starting to work. Okay.
Yes, I agree. It's a great sign to be aware, and can discern. Oh, I'm having a bad dream. Oh, that's stop it. Or this is a great one step. So maybe that's why this experience might be happening on you right now to cultivate and develop more kind of self-awareness in your what we call dream, the experience in the other dimension. So please move on the development of this awareness in other dimension, and to enforce it, please practice it in this dimension, which means what I call on-time introspection. We do introspection exercise just before we sleep, going to bed. 3 sounds is good, and to do the introspection, it's good to cleanse our body. But together with that, once we get used to doing the introspection exercise before we sleep, then we can do introspection exercise on time in our daily life, which means having a bird's eye viewpoint all the time. We watch and see our personalities, behavior, action, the behavior, words, thoughts, everything. Then that condition brings us the condition state of self-awareness, self-aware way of living all the time. Then it happens even after we sleep. When we go to even in the other dimension, we can continue this kind of perspectives. And yes, to prevent a bad dream, yes, we can also work on in our daily life. When we start to think about something negative, or when we start to worry or whatever, catch it and then stop it, the control it from the perspective of the bird's eye from inner self. And then once you can control it, you can manifest it in the other dimension, what we call in dream.
Also, I just recalled a technique Daskalos gave about bad dreams. And that is if you have a bad dream, when you wake up from a bad dream, don't just go right back to sleep. Turn your pillow over, say a little prayer, or he just said, make the sign of the cross. That only works if you believe in the cross. Maybe if you're a Hindu, you want to make an Om sign or something. But the idea is you want to bless the pillow and change the vibration so you don't go back in the dream. And I don't know, a lot of people sometimes, and on occasion, I should say, on occasion, people have a bad dream. They'll wake up and they'll go right back into the bad dream. They'll wake up and they go right back into the bad dream. And that's one of the dangers on the other side, is to fall into illusions. It's a danger on this side too, but on the other side, there's still illusions, and we fall into illusions. So the struggling with these negative elementals is what's causing the bad dreams. So you kind of got to wake up to that and bless your pillow, turn it over, bless it, go back to sleep.
And you try to attune with the Christ, and focus on that, and being embraced by the energy. Then you'll be fine.
Now, Eric has interesting questions. Do our close loved ones who have passed away know that they are in the psychical plane? Das Close would say 80% of the people that pass over, sometimes he'd say 90% of the people that pass over, have no idea they're dead. And that's one of the hardest things for them. They have to wake them up, say, well, you're dead. And they'll argue with them because they're still consciously that personality. Well, I'm not dead. I'm talking to you. And of course, they have a psychical body, so they can touch their psychical body and say, look, I have a body. I'm not dead. So it's one of the hardest things, is to wake people up to the fact that they have passed over. But there are workers there whose job is to do that. So it happens slowly, not to everybody, but some wake up, some never do. And the second part is, can they perceive what we think or see our actions or be aware of them? If a person on the mature plane knew how, they could know that, but most don't know how to do that. However, there is something that does happen. If there's a connection of real love, I mean real love, they still stay connected to you and can feel you. Now, of course, we feel like we lost them when they pass over. We don't see them anymore. So, oh man, they're stopped existing. Over time, you forget about them, I suppose, some people. But they don't feel that way. They feel very close to us because they have their version of us with them. That's a long story. I don't want to get into all that, but they don't feel the loss like we feel it. And if there's love, yes, there is a connection. Will you meet again? Of course, if there's real love, you keep meeting. You even create soul families, where families who really are vibrating in harmony come back together. Aki?
When we lost a close person, from this side, we miss them, and we cry and miss, and we want to feel and see them. But the one passed on, they have their own program, and at certain point we have to let them go. So if we grieve all the time, or if we really think of them in a sad way, missing them in a negative way, how can I say? I can't say it negative or positive. Then we grab their kind of energy, put them back, and they know how we are feeling, how we are missing. So we have to work on our, feelings and thoughts. But when we really think of that person who passed on, very close person, then we send a white light, visualizing them, smiling in that white light, and wish their happy, joyful pathway ahead of them. and creating a visualization for meet together again so happily, joyfully when time comes. When time comes. This is the healthiest way to think of the one who passed on.
Hugo is asking another question here. I think he's asking me to share more about the planet that was destroyed because its inhabitants were so warlike. What he's talking about is the planet that's now where our asteroid belt is in our solar system. It used to be a planet, and they were very warlike, and they destroyed the planet. And Daskala said after they destroyed the planet, they had to exist in the psychonoetical counterparts, because when you destroy a material anything, you don't destroy its psychonoetical counterpart. So they had to live there and wait for a planet to be prepared so they could reincarnate physically and go through the same lessons. Now, the important part here is not that there was a planet or existed, but that human beings on this planet or any planet have a circle of possibilities. And in that circle of possibilities, there are billions of circles of probabilities, but all face this issue of war. They face the issue of love and war. And some who go way into war go way too far, and they either have personally very difficult incarnation, or in the case where the whole planet goes too far, the planet became destroyed. Now, Daskalos assured us that this was not going to happen to Earth, even though Earth is facing the same test, isn't it? We have war-loving people here on Earth that just make a lot of money, really enjoy war and suffering. There are entities here incarnated who enjoy the suffering of other human beings. And that's hard for us to understand, but it's totally true. Right? And I think if you look at the Facebook post I made last time about the statue with the feet of clay, this is sort of what we have right now. And the statue, go look it up. It's a dream that the prophet Daniel, analyzed. And the fact that its feet, his big, strong iron legs, golden head, all these good metals up above, but its feet were made of clay and iron. And clay and iron don't bind together. So it's very weak. And then, of course, in the dream, something hits the thing and breaks it apart. But that clay and iron, it was a symbol of people who are mixed together, but they don't bond. And we have that right now going on at many, many levels, political, health, many levels. There are people that have such diverse views and opinions on things that it's not bonding together. So in the case before, they were allowed to go far enough to destroy their planet. And in the case of human beings, Daskos assured us that the higher intelligences are not going to let that happen to this planet. But the important thing is to love your neighbor, and then we won't have this problem.
Yes. Done?
Yes,
Okay.
oh, please.
Even though world is separated completely, please keep it in your mind. Everything is in love, and everything is in the perfect divine law again. So in the history, some planet was, in our eyes, it's destroyed physically, but they have their own another the path to develop under the perfect divine law and the love in the universe. So our planet, without our knowing, invisible helpers, archangels, and all the divine emissaries are working to protect this planet and to the self-realization.
Okay, one last question. I want to feel my emotions better. I want to feel them more clearly and noticeably. I think I've developed a habit of masking my emotions and dismissing them. I would like to feel my emotions more deeply and meaningful. Well, have you ever been in love? There's all kinds of emotions are stimulated by love. Love's not just an emotion, an emotion's carrier of love. But if you've ever had emotional caring for anybody, that's a feeling. That's your feeling. You care about that person. Or if you hate a person, you'll have feelings of hatred and negative feelings. These things are common in life, and you say you're maybe masking them. Maybe so. Maybe so. This is introspection again. We have to introspect on what we are doing now. So go through your day and somebody says something really meaningful, and instead of you getting hurt or wounded or angry, you stuff it. I don't feel any emotion from that. It's because you stuffed it. So the introspection is, wow, he said that. What should I have said? What shouldn't I have said? What should I have felt that I didn't feel? What should I have felt? What did I feel that I shouldn't have felt? So we analyze this stuff. So really, for me, if the quick answer for you would be just sit down every day for 10 minutes and don't do anything. Just watch what feelings and thoughts come up in you. Start to watch and try to discern. Say, oh, that's a thought. And I'm thinking that, but I feel this way about the thought. So try to separate those two because right now they're kind of mixed up and we don't really notice which is what's what unless we really deeply introspect on it. So try to pay attention of just, and they're going to come up. You're not going to be able to sit there and not have thoughts or feelings. So just watch every day for a week, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just do it for 5 minutes. You'll discover this immediately feelings and thoughts rise. So study them, analyze what is a feeling, what's a thought. And then you'll come to know your feelings much better. And then you'll come to be able to control them. Say, I don't need to express the feeling of being dissatisfied. I should express the feeling of feeling something there is to be satisfied. There's always something to be dissatisfied about, and there's always something to be satisfied about in our lives. So try to energize that. Hmm.
Hi, Thomas. Did you get recovered? Uh, yes, I think we already answered to this question. It's just all about the introspection. You can go in, you hide your feelings and emotions in your the bottom. That's why you want to know more clearly about your feelings and this, yeah, all kind of feelings. It's good, but good to know what is hiding. But please don't forget to have the what you are. Please stay in the introspection, the position, and observe what. Sometimes when we research and investigate your feelings and the thoughts and whatever traumas, we forget and we got entangled in that, and we lost the control. So never losing the control of this, using a strong willpower, and always is observing all these kind of hiding in you. This is okay, and by doing so, we can see more. We are watching everything through another level, through your inner self. So we can see more clearly. And then we can overview, wow, I'm surrounded by all these kind of feelings. We can see at the time everything. So please don't lose this important what we are, the position of the what we are, viewpoint of what we are.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Yes. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And as Daskala said, have a happier new year.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you for joining us.